Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is part 1 of What If Deku had a Minecraft quirk. Honestly, I get this quite a bit. I feel like quite a bit of people want to see some sort of Minecraft inventory, Minecraft something based power, and I always found it really funny, and I was like, you know what? I saw people ask it for My Hero Academia, for Shield Hero, for all of these other these other animes, and I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll do Minecraft in the My Hero Academia universe, aka What If Deku had a Minecraft quirk. I think all of you kind of were probably suggesting this because it's going to be very overpowered for various reasons, but nonetheless, I want to just get right to the what if. So let's get it. Izuku Midoriya is just born like any other normal kid. He goes through the first 4 years of his life pretty normally, pretty simply, and pretty basic. Now, this all leads up until he goes to the doctor one day, and the doctor tells him that he has a very unique type of quirk, that his quirk is kind of unrecognizable almost. It's as if he can't really put his finger on it exactly what it is. Because it's kind of a culmination of being able to kind of imagine things into real life, but also a culmination of what seems to be a video game. He's not 100% sure what video game it is or what it's about, but Inko Midoriya would chime up and say that the only video game her son plays is something called Minecraft, in which this is when the doctor nods his head and says, well, it might be related, it might not be related. He is not 100% sure because he's actually not super intertwined with the whole gaming type of scene. Now, he does say, go home, imagine some things up, think about some things, and use some key components within that video game to your advantage. Try to maybe make some sort of item, maybe try to eat some sort of food. He doesn't know. Something. Just try something. In which Izuku shrugs his shoulders and he thinks to himself, you know what? Why not? You know, let's give it a shot, right? Let's give it a shot. So when he's young, around 4 years old, he starts messing around and tries to activate this quirk, right? He tries to activate it. And eventually a screen would show up in front of him and he would be completely shocked because it's as if it was an imaginative type of thing. He was just imagining a screen or the inventory screen to show up in front of him. He would see his character or himself, right? The little Izuku Midoriya. Then he would see an inventory. Then he would also see a 2x2 grid of crafting space. He would be pretty interested at this, and he would be a little bit taken back. He would be wondering what this is all about. Like, how does this work? But then he would realize something. He would see that he could also click deeper within the kind of inventory screen, and he sees all of these different things, very similar to one creative mode. Now, he does kind of look at himself and he wonders, well, creative mode normally makes me invincible, so maybe I'm invincible. So he runs over to a tree and runs into it and realizes very quickly that he's not invincible, and probably far from it. He gets a bit of a headache and he thinks, oh, well, you know, it probably shouldn't just straight up run into a tree again, but maybe there's a world where he eventually becomes invincible, but that's kind of beyond the point. Now, he does, well then, you know, kind of mess with some things and kind of starts messing around in the backyard. He gets different items. We're talking building blocks and other items like that. He even builds himself a tree house in his literal backyard. And it's not like Minecraft though. When he starts placing these blocks, yes, they are in the format of a blocky figure, but once he's finished with the work and once he's finished entirely, he sees that, well, it turns very, very similar to, well, what something would look like in real life. It loses the kind of blocky-like structure and kind of loses its square-like area. And it seems like in his own imagination, he can kind of change things. So yes, they are blocky initially, but when he changes it in his own mind, it actually becomes very, well, normalized, right? So he has like a treehouse in his backyard now. And he's thinking to himself, wow, this is pretty freaking insane. Like, how is he able to do something like this? Like, this is completely wild. He doesn't understand how this works, but this is awesome. And then he gets something in his head. He runs inside and he goes to talk to his mother, Inko Midoriya, and he tells her that look what he built outside. It's a tree house. They run out there and she thinks this is awesome. Don't get me wrong. She thinks this is amazing, that the structure is beautiful, and frankly, it's honestly better than the house that they have probably in their, like, you know, their own home, and it's just in the little in their little backyard. But she tells them, well, the reality is they're gonna have to take it down, at least for now. Don't get me wrong, she loves it, but also tells him that if he's able to do something like this, maybe they should think about doing something a little bit on a grander scale. And when she explains to him what they should do, he thinks this is an amazing idea. He thinks that, well, they should sell whatever they have, get a little plot of land, and he can build them an actual house. He can build them at least a temporary house, and then maybe even tear it down and build them a bigger house, however big they want it. And they can put whatever they want in there based on what Izuku has. In which, this is when Inko thinks this is a fantastic idea. So they go out, they sell some stuff, and Izuku even figures out that he can actually basically spawn in diamonds and stuff like that. So let's just say they are filthy rich, and they could basically, well, choose to go buy themselves, you know, a house if they wanted to, go buy whatever house they want. But they decide to, you know what, let's go get a plot of land and let's go build something. So they both actually build together. Izuku able to actually give his mother like different items and things to kind of put down. And eventually they make a house. And this house is a pretty easy build. Like Izuku, it doesn't take very long for Izuku to place everything down. And obviously they'll have like a temporary place as well, at least for the moment. And yes, a 4-year-old Izuku is literally building a home in a matter of like a day for his mother and himself. So they build this area, right? They have a nice house. They frankly have a lot of money. She doesn't have to work anymore. And Izuku starts thinking, with these powers, he could truly be the hero that he wants to be. A hero like All Might. That's what he wants to be like. That's who he wants to be. And he starts thinking, how does he get to that point? How is he going to do it? Well, he's not sure. So he decides that he's going to go out through the rest of his life kind of like normal. You know, he continues to mess with the Minecraft stuff, you know, continues to sell diamonds and make a bunch of money, you know, tries to slow down a little bit just because he doesn't want to get, you know, in any trouble or anything like that. You know, you don't want to like mess with the economy so much that it ruins everything. And his mother even would bring this up to him. So they would live comfortably, let's say. They have no problem with money. If he needed hero equipment, he can get it, so on and so forth. He would even get to the point where his quirk would kind of spread word, or it would spread word a little bit to different organizations. And they would ask for his help in terms of like needing materials or stuff like that, which they would then give him either money or give him scholarships that would allow him to, for the most part, be ready for hero work, give him training and stuff like that, in which Izuku starts, well, around the age of maybe 10, 11, or 12, starts actually getting more into training. Now, he doesn't train a ton, he doesn't like work out a ton, but what he does do is he has a ton of stuff in his inventory at all times. And what he doesn't know and subconsciously doesn't understand is that just having stuff in his inventory is basically making it so that his body is adjusting to the natural weight of everything in his inventory. If he has stacks and stacks of diamond blocks in his inventory, his body is substantially just changing. It's adjusting and changing entirely to how much just strength his body could potentially have, right? So he continues to kind of just generate more and more power without even realizing it. And eventually he would get to the point where, yes, he has full control over his unrelenting strength and power and whatever you can think of, right? But at the same time, when he gets angry, he finally sees what his power truly is like. Because Bakugo would be berating him, saying that he's never going to be like All Might. That the only person that's going to get close to being like All Might is himself, is Bakugo, right? That's what he's saying. He's like, oh, I'm the only person that's going to be even close to someone like him. in which Izuku gets mad about this, and when he's walking away, he would nudge his shoulder on the wall on accident, and he would shatter the wall into pieces. Not the whole wall, but like part of it where the doorway is, and he would be completely shocked. Luckily, he's able to patch it up pretty damn quickly, because that's just, you know, his quirk has that kind of power, and he is able to patch it up. But Bakugo is shocked to see this. I mean, that thing must have been weak, right? Like, there's no way he was able to just walk into it and obliterate it. But no, Izuku's body has changed quite a bit, and his strength is on a totally different scale. We're talking, he has borderline super strength, if not more than that. We've seen on multiple occasions how heavy some of these things are in terms of in Minecraft, and Izuku would be given, or basically feeling, the strength of that specifically, and he would be getting these everlasting effects that in Minecraft wouldn't really necessarily have, but in the real world it massively helps Izuku. And the inventory itself has no weight limits, so he's basically training on massive amounts of weight that he doesn't even know is there. And on top of that, he's able to kind of configure different weaponry if he so chooses to do so. And he basically makes awesome stuff like swords and pickaxes and stuff like that, right? He can make cool items like that. Now, this would lead him to kind of just continuing on with his schooling and stuff like that. And eventually it would become the day where the teacher tells everybody that Izuku and Bakugo are trying out for UA, and that, well, he knows that everybody just wants to be a hero, and there's really no point in talking about anything else, which is, you know, fair, because this is a world full of heroes and a world where everybody wants to be a hero. So it doesn't surprise anybody that that is the main goal, and that is the goal, or basically the only goal that these kids have, right? Now, this would lead to kind of a whole, like, you know, ruckus of, like, you know, Bakugo telling Izuku not to even try, blah, 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 blah. But Izuku doesn't listen. He kind of is just over it at this point. So he eventually leaves, and he heads under a bridge where he's writing in his journal. And this is where things will actually take a bit of a change for Izuku, because when the sludge villain would arrive and is about to attack him, this is where Izuku's not afraid of this sludge villain. Not one singular bit. He thinks to himself, okay, what can he use in his inventory or in his creative inventory now? Yes, he could try to fight the thing, right? He could try to fight with his sword or something like that. Or he could put maybe blocks in front of him, maybe obsidian blocks that can protect him, and he wouldn't be able to get to him. Or he could do something like this, which he pulls out glass bottles, in which the sludge villain laughs at him, saying like, that's not going to work. In which Izuku laughs and says, you know what, he's right. And then he pulls out a bucket, and the sludge villain laughs even more. I mean, just because you increase the size of the capacity of the item doesn't mean it's gonna mean anything. But as the sludge villain charges at him, Izuku would basically swoop his bucket at the sludge villain, and immediately the sludge villain would be sucked into the bucket in one foul swoop and would be stuck there, unable to move, and almost solidified to a point where he's kind of just stuck and unable to move entirely. In which this is shocking for the sludge villain. All you see is the two eyes of the sludge villain and the mouth, and he's talking to Izuku, asking how he did that and what kind of freakish powers does he have. Izuku laughs as he holds the bucket, and eventually All Might would arrive, seeing that there is no villain. In which he would ask the kid, hey, have you seen this villain, like, you know, his big green monster, whatever, right? In which Izuku is freaking out that it's All Might, so much so that All Might eventually just realizes that the thing is in the bucket. In which All Might grabs the bucket and says, like, is he okay? Like, is everything all right? And which Izuku says, yeah, everything is all right. He just captured this sludge villain in a bucket. In which Izuku is standing there, like, with a smile on his face, but All Might's confused. How the hell did you do this in a bucket? Like, that's it? Really? Just a bucket? In which he just nods his head. Yeah, just a bucket. That's all it took. In which, of course, this is very confusing and a very odd thing, and not something All Might was expecting. But hey, cool. All Might nods his head and tells him that he did a hell of a job, and he hopes to see the kid very soon, maybe in UA High School or something like that. He wishes the best for him. In which Izuku asks him that he knows that his quirk is odd and kind of very unique, but can he still be a hero like him? In which All Might would nod, saying that the kid, if he could do what he just did right now, swoop in and just save the day like this, he could be a hero just like him. If not, maybe better than him. All Might would then leave, and Izuku would be happy to hear this. I mean, this is awesome. All Might just gave him recognition. All Might just told him that he could be a hero. This is amazing. In which the next 10 months would be full of just training for Izuku, but Izuku would feel just energized, would feel just absolutely just ready. He would feel like a different version of himself. He'll be training hard. He'd be working hard. He doesn't need to work on his strength, so he tries to work on his speed. He carries all these items in his inventory that is supposed to weigh him down, but it doesn't really feel like it, and he begins running. For days, he would run. And as he does this, his speed, his natural speed, becomes superhuman. Same thing with his strength. He continues to do this over and over again. And on top of this, he begins to basically organize a kit for him that he believes he'll need for the exam. Now, what does he think he'll need? Well, a strength potion wouldn't hurt. Maybe multiple. Speed potions, they won't hurt, right? Maybe some sort of healing-like potions could be beneficial. Maybe some netherite armor. Maybe a good sword. Maybe something along those lines. Maybe even an axe. So he starts kind of picking out these things, and he even starts like kind of making a mental note of, okay, like eventually he wants to start enchanting items, but it seems that he's unable to actually gain experience points. Maybe there's a way to do that. Maybe he'll have to defeat villains, but he does have a little bit of an experience points. It seems like he has 5 experience points, or 5 levels of experience, excuse me. And it's a very odd thing, and he then realizes that it must have been from the sludge villain. Capturing, defeating, killing, which obviously they don't want to kill, but capturing, defeating villains, maybe that gives him experience that would allow him to actually enchant. But then he thinks to himself, well, what about the enchanting bottles, right? Bottles of enchanting. He tries to use them, but when he throws them on the ground, it seems like the transfer to the new world is kind of awkward, right? It doesn't really work the way he thinks it's going to work. So then he thinks, okay, what about like spawning in monsters? Then he's about to spawn one in and then thinks to himself, maybe that's not the best idea in the world right now, because if he spawns in a monster and then he can't kill the monster, they might be having a bad thing on their hands. So maybe he should hold off on that, at least for the moment. So he decides that he's going to wait. He knows that there are friendly monsters that he could definitely utilize. So maybe he can tame some wolves, but maybe that's a future thing. Maybe he doesn't want to really mess with that right now. But he gets everything prepped, everything ready. And after the 10 months of training, just solidifying what his quirk does and just working out as much as possible is over, Izuku is ready for the UA entrance exam. Now, the UA entrance exam is very simple. You have your very written, or your very first written portion of the exam, and then you have the practical. Now, the practical is very simple in terms of you have to defeat robots. You have to defeat them, destroy them, however you want to say it, right? And Izuku, he feels like he's ready. The written portion, it's a little bit of a struggle. He had some time to study and he worked hard, but there's a little bit of a struggle there. And then on top of that, when he would go to the practical portion, this is where things are, well, changing. He begins to drink his potions, get ready, pulls out his sword, and then even puts on some armor. And everybody is confused, like, how is he able to, or why is he allowed to have these outside things? And where the hell is he even keeping them? In which the PA or the announcer, which would be President Mike, would say to not worry about other students, that all quirks have been cleared, and some quirks are more unique than others. So don't be surprised if you see some odd things. In which Izuku would just shrug his shoulders, saying that does make sense. This is a very odd thing, so he gets it. Then he would pull out a crossbow, and this crossbow would be loaded up with something a little bit interesting. being that of fireworks. It seems like this crossbow is ready to go, and his sword and all of this stuff is ready to go, and he feels extremely fast and extremely strong. The gates would swing open and he would race off, and everybody would be shocked to see that he's running hella fast, right? He is running extremely fast. Now, it's not on the level of like some speedster or anything like that, but they never expected somebody like him, just some normal lad, some normal dude, to just sprint off and be like super quick. He begins slicing through the robots, right? Boom, one after another, over and over and over again. And as he does this, he can see his experience bar going up and up. This is perfect. This is going to give him experience, give him the ability to enchant items, and make him even more stronger, or even stronger. So he continues to mow through them. He even shoots his crossbow off, destroying multiple at one time, where the arrow, or the firework arrow, would kind of hit a robot and it would explode. And it would basically make this huge explosion that would destroy multiple robots at once. So he would make sure that, nobody's in the crossfire, but he would destroy that as well. Then this would lead to kind of a bunch of destruction of robots, and then eventually the 0-point robot would appear. He would see the 0-point robot and think, maybe it's best for me to just head out. Like, I'm not going to try and fight this thing. He goes to walk away and sees that a girl is calling for help. Some girl underneath a rubble or a bunch of rocks. So Zuko just goes over there immediately, and he just basically pushes all the rocks and all this everything off of her almost instantly. Extremely strong. I mean, it's obvious that he's extremely strong, so he just immediately pushes off of her, and he throws a splash potion of healing on her, in which it completely heals her and more or less makes it so she can run on her own as well. He helps her up, and they both run away from the 0-point robots as Izuku watches the 0-point robot chase them and chase them and chase them, but then eventually he would stop. The 0-point robot would stop, and it seems it stops because the entirety of this, exam is actually over. Since the exam is over, everybody cheers and everyone's happy. Everyone's happy that it's done. And Izuku asks the girl if she's okay, in which she's fine, and asks him, how did he do that? Like, seriously, he seems so strong, so fast already, but he already has like some sort of healing powers as well. In which Izuku puts his hands up and says, sort of, not exactly though, right? It's not 100% the way you think it is, but he says it's something like healing, right? It's a little bit confusing. It's kind of magical, but it's something like that. In which he asks if she's feeling okay, in which she says that she's a little sore. He throws another one at her, and it completely gets rid of all the soreness, her being hurt at all, and completely entirely. He says that these are not always the most effective, right? Sometimes you'll need 2 or 3 to be fully in full health once again. And sometimes, depending on the circumstance, you might need a ton of them or they won't work at all. And that's just the reality of it. It depends on the situation. In which Izuku waves her off and tells her that it was a pleasure meeting her, in which they exchange names, and he walks off. And after some time would pass, Izuku would be awaiting the letter from Yue, and that letter from Yue would eventually arrive. Now, this letter would be just a sigh of relief for Izuku Midoriya. Izuku would see it, and he would see a hologram of All Might appear, telling him that he made it, that he is in Class 1A, and that he's proud of him, that he met him under that bridge when he caught the sludge villain. And the kid, well, he knew the kid was going to be great. He knew the kid had so much potential. And he's proud to say that he is the #1 student out of all the first years. In which Izuku would freak out. He would be celebrating, and he'd be chanting, and he'd be so happy that he's the #1 student. But he also knows that being the #1 student puts a target on your back. It tells people that you are the best. And if he wants to hold that, and he wants to hold onto the idea that he is the best, then he needs to make sure that he can carry on that mantra and carry on the factor of being the best. Now, this is when Izuku, a day after, would head off to his first day of UA High School. Izuku Midoriya would be ready for his first day. He would enter the classroom, he would sit down, and he would be prepared. Whatever's to come, whatever's going to happen, he is ready. He pulls out his notebook, or it's more or less a book and quill, but it kind of converts into a notebook and pen when he brings it into the real world, and he begins to write things down. He writes first day of UA, and he's ready. That he's ready to go and ready to do whatever is necessary. And as he awaits the arrival of his teacher and, well, everybody else, everybody would storm in. They would be talking. Everybody would be loud. And even the girl that he basically saved would be kind of talking loud and basically thanking him over and over again about being such an amazing person and blah, blah, blah. This eventually would lead to Aizawa showing up, telling them all to shut their mouths, and saying that he has a test for them all, a Quirk assessment test. And since the, well, green-haired guy, Izuku Midoriya, is the number one student, which that's what he is, the number one student in the first years, in which Bakugo would scoff at, saying that he's nothing compared to him, in which Izuku would shake his head, but Aizawa would tell Bakugo that it seems like he's a lot better than him, because he is number one and Bakugo's not. They would all go outside, and Izuku would await whatever the first challenge is, and he would have to throw a ball. Now, how is he going to throw the ball? Well, shoot, he can do it a couple ways. He can shoot it in his crossbow, maybe shoot it with a bow and arrow, or he can just throw it. And when he throws it, he throws that thing, and it's gone. He throws that thing almost to space borderline because of how strong his body really is. And it goes, we're talking borderline almost to space, and it's basically done and dusted. Bakugo would go next, but he wouldn't even get close to Izuku, like not even a fraction of what Izuku can do or did. And everybody kind of goes throughout their testing. Now, this testing is a bit more serious though, because Aizawa says that if you don't, or if you get last place, you are completely out of here. Like, you are getting kicked out of UA, you're going to be expelled and blah, blah, blah. And Izuku goes through, you know, the ball throw, the speed test, the grip strength. He passes them all, if not gets number one in almost every single one of them. And eventually it leads to, well, the expulsion of Hagakure, or Invisible Girl. But the very next day, when they're all gathered together ready for their next assignment or their next hero training lesson, when All Might is about to come in, Hagakure would actually come in and she would be unexpelled. Because that was a whole ruse and the whole thing that Aizawa kind of sets into place in his own little way. Now, All Might would walk in and he would tell them all that they're going to be doing hero training. And this hero training would involve heroes versus villains. They all head off and they all get ready. They get on their hero outfits and so on. Izuku actually just kind of donning something pretty basic and thinking that, well, he'll probably just put on like armor, so he doesn't have to worry about anything too cosmetic, and in which he actually does find a way to make it so he actually looks a certain way with his armor on. So instead of it just being, you know, his armor, right, he has his hero suit. But this hero suit is a little bit more tacky, right? You have a nicer, way nicer, so more advanced version of the first one he ever got. And it's obvious because they got money, man. They got a ton of money. So there's no point of, you know, doing some lame kind of weird custom job, right? You get a nice one, a nice suit, and a suit ready for some action, ready to take on, well, his first challenge, which would be Bakugo and Tenya Ida as the villains and him and Ochako as the heroes. Now, the plan is very simple. Izuku was thinking to himself, okay, so what's the best way to go touch this bomb? Now, if you want to go touch the bomb, it's very basic. You got to go look through the windows, look through different areas, and Izuku thinks to himself he could go fight Bakugo, or he could get him even more angry and just ladder up, or just kind of, yeah, just ladder up with Ochako Uraka and find exactly where the bomb is, in which that's exactly what they do. They use ladders and they put stuff at the bottom like slime blocks and stuff like that, so that if, you know, they do fall, they'll fall and they won't, you know, be hurt like at all. So they kind of look around, move around, and they even use like these levitation potions for the most part, just in case. And eventually they find the exact spot where the bomb is. They are right at the glass, and Izuku and her stand right on a block right next to the where the bomb is. They smash the glass and they touch the bomb. Easy peasy, just like that. In which this is a shock for Bakugo and Tenya. Tenya not even hearing them outside. Bakugo pissed that Izuku won't fight him, and well, they just shrug their shoulders and they head back down. Izuku is done just like that in a matter of around 30 to 40 seconds. He's able to seize the bomb and just, you know, in turn defeating the villains, right? They're able to touch the bomb and end the whole training session, in which everybody is pretty shocked by this, and All Might gives his kind of recognition to the fact that it was very efficient and quick work, and there is no complaints or any complaints that could be said. But Bakugo says, hell with that. Like, there's complaints. He's pissed that Izuku wouldn't fight him, but All Might tells him that that's not what this training session was about. It wasn't about fighting each other. It was about finding the best way to stop the villains from doing what they were doing. And that's what they did. Just like that. Quicker the better, and the more efficient the better as well. In which, of course, this would be pissing off Bakugo for a while, but they would kind of sit there through kind of a lot of what happened and a lot of what's going to happen with the other heroes versus villains events. Now, this would lead them to kind of finishing up, and then a couple days later they take on what they know as the USJ, which is more or less a rescue facility. But what they don't know is that this rescue facility is going to be flipped on its head when the villains of the League of Villains invade. And Izuku is going to have his first chance to truly show off what he's capable of and what his quirk, his Minecraft quirk, is truly capable of. But for now, that will be the end of part 1 of What If Deku Had a Minecraft Quirk. And if you enjoyed, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. And if you want to see part 2 ASAP, please show some love to the video. I'm gonna try my best, and I have full plans to actually upload daily. So that's what I'm gonna try to do, and we're gonna give it a shot, because I wanna stay daily. I want to go back to the good old days where I was uploading daily content. Not sure if it's gonna be like it's gonna be this series and then the next series and then the next, you know what I mean, like one for one. It might be like 3 parts of this. I might start a new one and then finish this one, and then, you know, kind of go a little bit everywhere depending on how I'm feeling. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, please leave a like and leave a sub. Comment down below. Everything helps. I appreciate all the love and support that I get from you guys, and I appreciate all you guys nonetheless, even if you don't like or subscribe, even if you just watch the video. With that said, though, hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope all you guys have an amazing day. Later.